Hey Zachariah, how you doing today?
Hey, what's going on, Rob? I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, just had some lunch, so feeling good. How about you?
Great. I'm doing well. I'm excited to get into our topic today. And, today I'll be asking you a few questions. For our audience, we switch back and forth every week, just capturing different ideas and how you can grow your local business using advertisement via social media and Google, as well as AI and automations. So today, Zachariah is up, and I'll just be asking him a few questions about local marketing for small businesses. All right,
Solid.
great. So today, Zachariah, I really want to cover a few things, but the first thing is going to be if you could just break down for our audience, why being in advertisement is so important. So I spoke to a client earlier today, or a prospect, who he's been purchasing leads. He's an investor and a lender, and he purchases leads, for pennies. He gets the information, it's just pure data. And he makes some phone calls, and I told him there's a few problems with that. You don't know when the data was created, where it came from, what they used to pull the data. So I then tried to explain why advertising is different. And if you could just jump into that, let our viewers know why it's so important, why it's better than word of mouth, or that it's needed with word of mouth, and definitely better over purchasing leads.
Yeah, I'll start with the last part, which, why it's better than purchasing leads. Because, a lot of, if we're talking like local service contractors, they're using House, they're using Yelp, maybe 33 Mile, all these different companies that just send leads your way. These aggregate lead, like companies that sell off these leads and most likely are cycling them to you and other local, competitors. The issue with that is, number one, to your point, you don't know how these leads are captured. If you're talking House, Yelp, usually the leads are a little bit more legitimate. Like maybe it is actually someone looking for a roofer or what have you, right? But you don't know the origination of these leads, how old these leads are. You don't know who else talked to them before you got to them. Maybe you're out on a job and you didn't realize the call came in. You try to call them back, an hour later, and they've already spoken to 2 or 3 other people. Or if we're talking like in this guy's case, where he's getting leads through kind of a lead broker, maybe not like House or one of these companies, but somebody who could very well just be posting, enter your information to win $1,000 Amazon gift card. That's also like that's like horrible. And that's where you get people saying, I have no idea who you are. Why are you contacting me? How'd you get my information? And those sort of things. The advantage of advertising over either of those two methods is there are multiple advantages. One is exclusivity. Now, exclusivity in this context does not mean, and we have to explain this sometimes to our clients at InfraScale, it does not mean that someone has absolutely never spoken to another business that has similar services to yours. That's not, no one can control that, And so, but what it does mean is when they come through your door, they've seen your brand, they've seen whatever your messaging is, and it was compelling enough for them to reach out to you. And that's very important, because instead of you getting leads and reaching out to the person, your positioning switches, the position of authority in the situation switches. They're reaching out to you from a psychological standpoint. They're reaching out to you, which means they're more likely to convert, more likely to have a conversation. Even when we get from our advertising for our business, if you guys don't know, and if you haven't seen our ads, we're running ads, to get local service contractors into our basically ecosystem to become clients. It's the primary way we get clients. And so when they come in and reach out to us and we respond or pick up the phone or what have you, it's a totally different tone. because we remind them, hey, you reached out to us about this for your business. How can we help you? And then they're like open book, versus if we were cold calling, let's say local HVAC companies or pool builders, we got to go through all these hoops. We kind of may feel like a nuisance, and unless someone's in the perfect mindset of, I need voice AI for my business, or I need a new advertising company, unless that's the case, we're going to have a lot less success just because of positioning. So that's one of the major advantages. Another major advantage is predictability and scalability. With time, as you get data, like, in our ad accounts, we know, okay, on average, here's how much a lead is going to cost us. Here's how much a book call is going to cost us. And then here's our closing rate. So on average, if nothing changes, here's what we make if we spend this much. And if we double our ad budget, then we should, in theory, if nothing else changes, double our revenue, right? You get a lot more scalability and predictability in your growth if you want to grow, versus like word of mouth. It's maybe reliable, or maybe it's been reliable to get you where you're at, but it's not controllable, and then purchasing all these leads from, let's say, House or Yelp or some other kind of company that's sourcing them. It's maybe you have an average over time in a numbers game, but you're going to be dealing with a much lower success rate, closing rate, or whatever you want to call it, contacting leads that way and looking to book more business that way.
And I think the scalability part is the most important piece, because even if you're using, if you're in the service industry, if you're using a company like Angie's List that is reliable and sends you quality leads, well, you pay them a fee every month, and, they send you what comes in that they think is for you, but you don't really have any control over that flow. Angie's List does. So although Angie's List is, happy to give you a result and they want to keep you on their books, you have no control over whether you get more or not. And that's where advertising is really different, and why anybody who's running a local business really should be taking advantage of online advertising. So thanks for that, Zachariah.
Definitely.
My next question for you is, people may be thinking, okay, I should be advertising, but what platform should I be advertising on? Because there's so many things. There's Google, there's Facebook, Meta, which encompasses Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn. How do you determine, when we sit down with a client, what their strategy should be and where they should be spending their money to get the best result?
Yeah. Offer and audience. That's how you want to determine it. So offer, what are you offering? So for example, if you're offering emergency AC repair, well, when someone has an emergency like that with their AC system, or it could be a pipe busted, under their sink, because it froze over in the wintertime, or a hurricane came through and their roof shingles are gone, or whatever the case is, they're going to go where? Google, maybe Bing, if they use Bing, but some platform like that where they can actively search and find. Versus, let's say it's like a maintenance plan for your AC. Well, you could run Facebook ads for that to promote that. People may not be actively thinking about a maintenance plan, but if you have a strong enough offer, it's something that you can get in front of people to disrupt whatever their experience is, let's just say on Facebook, to capture their attention and get them into your funnel or ecosystem and get in touch with them and sell them on such a service. And so, but then also the audience plays a big role in that as well. So, hey, am I a roofing company looking to service young married couples and young families, or am I in a market where there's a lot more maybe baby boomers, right? And so based on that, I'm going to approach my offer a little bit differently, but I might choose my platform differently as well. If I'm targeting, let's say, young married couples between 22 and 35, just say for example, I might be more interested in Facebook, more meta advertising, Facebook and Instagram, as well as potentially TikTok, whereas if I'm in a more of a baby boomer area, I might be more Facebook targeting that age demographic and above, and probably Google, because they're going to be a little bit more concerned about, is this legitimate or is this a scam? Right. And then what they're going to do, they're going to be more sophisticated and go to Google to research you after they see your advertisement. Or even Bing. Bing has a strong demographic of adult males over 45. Right. So it depends on the offer and the audience that I'm looking to service. If I'm looking to service any and everyone, well, I'm going to probably more be focused on what's the nature of what I'm offering, and then determine the platform from there. So there are a lot of dynamics and a lot of nuances, and it depends also on the intent. Do I want to just grow our brand awareness and then convert people later down the line through maybe retargeting advertisements? Or do I just want leads today? Leads now. I'm a small business. I need to make money, and I need to convert today. Well, I'm probably going to focus on the highest leverage platforms depending on my offer, which are going to be Meta and Google. But if I don't mind also growing my brand, I might be also running ads and even posting on TikTok, for example, just to have in YouTube, just to have a more multi-channel domination in my market. So it really depends on where the business is, where the mentality of the business owner is, and then who you're serving, along with what you're offering.
Sure. So incorporating organic and, being all over is definitely important. I agree with you there. Well, let's do a little, practice theory for our audience, and maybe in the future we might even walk through one of these on screen, do a live presentation of what it looks like. But I'll just give you an example of a business owner, and maybe we walk through the steps of, developing the offer, choosing a creative, choosing our audience, and really just getting that first ad out there for people who are looking to get started today.
Yeah.
And don't want to wait, but maybe don't have the money and maybe have the time to not hire somebody else, but do it themselves. So let's say I'm a HVAC business owner located in Tampa, Florida. And, it's busy season right now. A lot of AC repairs are needed. Okay. So I come to you. I'm looking to have this ad built out. I want AC repairs while the season's hot for it. And then maybe later we'll switch to something else. But for now, where should I be? What's my offer? And what pictures or images or creatives are we showing people to capture their attention?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to think about, and let's even say you've got like $30 a day on ads. We recommend 50 at minimum if you can, but let's just say 30, so you're a little bit tighter on budget as well for your advertising. So the first place I'm going to start, okay, if I've got the time, I don't have the money, and I've got to put a little more manpower in being my own advertiser and not hiring someone to do it. First thing I'm going to recommend you do is Google your top competition in the area. Look at their reviews, look at their website, go to their Facebook business pages. There's an area, if you go to a Facebook business page, there's an about area. Under that about area is what's called page transparency. Underneath page transparency, it will tell you if this page, it'll say this page is currently running ads, or this page is not currently running ads. If the page is both, in either case, that information is good for you, good news for you. So if they are running ads, you can click like see or see ads or something like that right next to the notification that they are, and you can see what ads they're running. You can look and see, okay, these are the AC repair, and maybe they're running ads for new installations or change outs or maintenance plans as well. But if you're just focused on AC repair for the sake of this example, you're going to find and look through, it's going to be in what's called the Facebook ad library. That's where it's going to take you, where you're going to see all these ads that they're running. You'll be able to see, okay, they got this AC repair ad running. Here's their offer, if there's one, or maybe they just say, we'll do your AC, we'll repair your AC. Like, who knows? Or maybe it's like $25 off or something else creative. You'll be able to see what image or kind of video they're using for that ad and so forth. So you want to do that. So I would go to Google, look at their website, look at their reviews, look at what ads on Google pop up for, like when you type HVAC companies, Bradenton, Florida, for example, or whatever, right? And then examine there, then go to Facebook, look at the Facebook pages of these businesses you Googled, if they have them. Some of them don't, but if they have one, and then if you do that, go to the About section of their Facebook page, go to page transparency, and you'll see all the information underneath there. So from a research perspective, that's where I'd start. You don't have to try to be a genius and try to figure this stuff out on your own, and come up with an idea for this or that. Just look at what's already running and what's already working in your market. And then the next stage to that is thinking, okay, how can I one up on what my competition is doing? You can do this in a few ways. You can basically race to the bottom on pricing and just try to undercut whatever they're offering the same services for on pricing. It's not my preferred way to do things, but you could. Or you could look at, how can I add value that doesn't cost me as much money and time, but will help me. It might hit my margins a little bit. It might eat away a little bit of my time on these jobs or going back to a house, customer's house, but it's going to give me the influx that I need because no one else is doing this. So maybe that's something like, if we do your AC repair, your first maintenance checkup is like free or something like that, right? Or it could be something else that's creative, where it's like, it would be nice for you to have gotten paid, but from the long-term perspective, especially you have an excellent customer service, that's the kind of offer that would get someone to switch over, because they'll go, oh, like, I'll get a free maintenance repair. They must be good, if they're willing to do that. Let me try them out for my repair and see how it goes. And you built those reviews and you built that trust, things like that. And then they looked at my AC, everything was good. I'm looking forward to the next time they come out, right? So you've got to do a little bit of that if you're in this situation. And then the next thing I do is I would use like there's a very sophisticated way to do this, but this is where you infuse AI to help you save time, not to think for you, but to help you save time. So you could either take the route of reading books on what's called copywriting, which is a marketing and advertising skill, or you can just use something like Claude AI. That's CLAUDE.ai. And you go in there, and here's what the way I prompt Claude is a lot more sophisticated than this, but here's just, if you're getting started with this and you're not familiar, here's what I would do. I'd go in there and I'd say, hey, Claude, I would upload screenshots of what I've seen from my competitors. I would give it to Claude and I'd say, hey, Claude, here's, I am a HVAC company in this such and such market. I'm looking to get more clients for, let's say, emergency AC repair. Here's what my competition, here's the kind of advertising and marketing my competition has online right now. So boom, and then you give that to Claude, you tell it to analyze it, understand it, and then it will do that. After it does that, then what I would say is, I want to create an offer that is unique and better than what my competition is doing. Because most likely your competition is just giving some kind of coupon, like X amount of dollars off. That's like the standard, what like 90% of businesses do. So I want to come up with something more creative. I'm thinking this, what do you think? And then it will give you its feedback. Once you guys, once you and the AI have a bit better clarity of an idea, just a general idea, say this specifically. Okay, Claude, now I want you to write Facebook ad copy for me, styled after Dan Kennedy and Jim Edwards. They're two very well-known copywriters, and they're really good. And so Dan Kennedy and Jim Edwards. And the reason I say to do that is, if you do that, Claude's going to pull from their principles and techniques and things like that from the internet, and you don't have to go and read books and take courses and have years of copywriting like I have to be able to write it well enough, and so anyhow, so you do that, and then it'll spit something out. Make sure you read it, because it's still right now where AI is, it's not perfect. So like there still might be little things to tweak and things like that. But like 95% of it's going to be pretty good, just with, if you follow that, upload a bunch of screenshots and information, come up, crystallize an idea, and then, okay, write a Facebook ad copy for me after the likeness of Jim Edwards and Dan Kennedy. And then once you have that, you're going to tell it, write a Facebook headline for me, because there's a separate box when you're running Facebook ads called the headline box. Write a Facebook headline for me that's no longer than 20 characters long, after Dan Kennedy and Jim Edwards copywriting style. And then when it comes to, so now you've got the words for your Facebook ad. And then when it comes to, okay, what kind of image or video am I going to run? You can see what your competition's doing. Just because they're doing what they're doing actually doesn't mean it's the best. I've seen plenty of top companies in a market and what they're advertising, and I'm like, this could be 100 times better. It's just the best in that market. And they've been in business for 40 years. So people just trust them more, right? And so it doesn't mean that what they're doing, they have the best possible advertising. A lot of times they don't, because they're not marketers, they're not advertisers. And unfortunately, a lot of their marketing companies aren't doing that great of a job, based on our experience with the clients we have now, who are very appreciative of our capabilities. But anyhow, and so I would take a look and get an idea of what they're doing. But here's what I would generally, and if you think it's truly something valuable, then you can not just copy it right into your business, but you can take inspiration from it and come up with something similar. But here's going to be, especially when you're talking about local service, typically what works really well is people being able to see who's a part of the business. So if you're running like you just are going to do photos to start, have photos of yourself like in front of the truck, or if a customer is okay with it, photo of you and the customer at at their house, right? Looking at their outdoor unit, AC unit, or whatever the case is, right? If you're going to have video, you can have simple video of just you recording before and after. Here's like, maybe you took the AC apart to clean it. So here's how it looks cleaned, or in the mid process being cleaned, and here was the issue. And then same exact shot, but just it's all put together. Now it's, you can see that the AC is running, it has good pressure, blah, blah, blah. It's pushing out cool air, etc. Like you can also have simple videos like that. And then you could just either go on YouTube and figure out how to do some very simple editing if you have the time, or you pay someone super cheap on like Fiverr or Upwork, say, here's the video, here's like what I have for the video. I need you to clean up the audio, put a little nice background music to it. And if you're talking in the video, just make sure your voice is heard. If you're not speaking, just put some nice background music, and you go to Claude and you say, hey, Claude, I have a video that's like this. You describe the video, the before and after, and you say, I need simple text to go on the screen of the video, text overlay. I don't particularly do this because usually the ideas come to my mind, but this is, you're not an experienced, seasoned advertiser. So this is what I recommend you do, and, of course you make sure you read everything, always read everything, make sure it looks good and it makes sense. It might be some weird things that Claude will put in there that aren't accurate. But then once you have that, you send that to the video editor and you say, this is the text I want you to put. And you tell Claude, give me this, like the minute markers, or like from this second to this second, give me a line. From that second to that second, give me a line. Or from this shot to that shot, however your video is. And then you send that over to the editor so that they can put that all in there for you. And so these are just some tactics. And then what you do is you go onto Facebook, you create your campaign, you put all those elements in, and you get it running. And now if you're like, I don't even know how to do that, I don't even have an ad account, I don't even know what an ad account is, comment down below, and in a future video, we'd be more than happy to do like a walkthrough tutorial for Facebook, for Google, any ad platform you want that is relevant to your industry. But yeah, so that's the, like, 30,000 foot view process I would recommend for somebody who's, and I know it's kind of a lot, but I wanted to give you the key details so that you're not like getting stuck and confused at some of the key stages of what to do,
Sure.
And so, but that's like the 30,000 foot view of, if I was telling somebody who they aren't experienced with these ad platforms, how to do this, that's exactly how I recommend doing it.
Got it. Okay, great. So if we're looking at that from key takeaway points, basically we're just looking to do research on our competition, Google and Facebook. Then take that research, use AI to help you create some copy. First of all, make sure you have a business account and a Facebook ad account so that you can actually create the ad. Take that copy, throw it into Facebook. Then take some personalized creatives, whether that's videos or photos of you and the people in your business, either on a job site or in front of some sort of branding. So it could be a truck like Zachariah described, and use those creatives. Maybe use AI to do some simple edits or help you create some simple edits, and use those creatives. And there you go. You have your first very simple ad. And, the place where we come in really is that one thing about advertising, whether it's local or national, is that you have to test, right? You need to see what works and what doesn't. And sometimes I tell all of our clients that marketing is just a game, right? You need to throw things at the wall, see what sticks. Obviously do that with some conceptual research behind it, and don't just throw anything up there. But you need to have a plan of action. You need to put it out there, see what works. If it's not working too well, why isn't it working? Where are people falling off? Why are they falling off? Make the changes at those places, and then continue to push out new ads and find the winner that works and keep that one up until it starts to fatigue. So I know that's a lot, but that's really how we can give you just a bit of help. We're going to do more videos on that in the future.
And can I say one thing?
Yeah.
In case you are watching this and you actually do have experience with ads, like even if you've never been the one directly running it, our advice is for someone who's totally new, right? There's way more advanced topics. You ideally want to run more than one creative at a time. You want to test different variables. So, because I can see somebody in the comments going, "Oh, that's terrible advice. Run one creative." Like it's just for somebody they're really new, getting started. They just need to learn the process. But with our clients, we're much more sophisticated, and even in our own ad accounts, much more sophisticated than what we described. But yeah, so just wanted to throw that disclaimer in there.
I mean, we're typically auditing people's ad accounts who are running ads in the past to see what's going wrong. And, like I said, we'll do a video in the future where we actually break down a real scenario with different ad sets, different creatives, different ads, and show you guys how you may be able to do that on your own. Another topic that I brought up that's super important is tracking, because behind your advertisement is other layers. So Zachariah, this is just, the last question I have for you. Let's say somebody goes out there, they do put together their own ad, and it's not working. What would you advise them in terms of tracking so that they can see why it's not working? And how would you break that down from an audit perspective of, where and when to make changes?
Yeah, great question. And this is very important. So in terms of just in a very simple sense, how to set up tracking, let's just say we're talking Facebook ads it's different. It's a different process if you're going Google ads, but let's just say Facebook ads. So there's an area inside of, again, when we make the video showing you how to, like, step by step how to do this will make more sense if you don't know what we're talking about. but you have what's called a business. Well, now it's called a business portfolio. It used to be called a business manager, but a business portfolio. And in there, I always describe it as your business portfolio is like a suitcase. And in a suitcase, you have different compartments. And so those different compartments are, an ad account, which is where you set up, create, and launch your ads. You have what's called, you have your Facebook page area in there. That's another section of the suitcase, so to speak, the business portfolio. And then you have way more than this, but then you have what's called events manager. So it's called events manager because it's where you manage the different events. Now, Facebook calls an event like filling out a lead form, calling you, giving your business a call, things like that. They call those an event. That's just their terminology. Something that happens as a result of someone clicking on your ad, them taking the next step. And so you're going to go into the events manager and you're going to create a Facebook pixel. Now, I won't break down, at least in this conversation, how to do that, because especially if you've never done it before, it's going to seem pretty confusing. Once you do it once or twice, you realize it's not that bad, but it's going to just sound really confusing. But long story short, you're going to create what's called a Facebook pixel. What that's going to be is a piece of code. Don't be intimidated if you're not a coder, a piece of code that you're going to simply copy and paste in a certain spot of your landing page or website or what have you. And Facebook it's going to give you instructions on how to do that. So it's not like they leave you hanging dry. And basically what that piece of code acts as, it acts, imagine, there's the United States, and then let's just say there's Ireland, and then there's a US ambassador, right? So the United States in this case represents your ad account. Ireland represents your website, and the US ambassador represents your Facebook pixel. So the Facebook pixel goes to your website, just like an ambassador from a country from the United States would go to Ireland. And it's going to communicate with your website, just like that ambassador goes there to communicate with, I don't know what Ireland calls it, but let's just say their president, and then what's going to happen is your Facebook pixel is going to relay that information back to your ad account, just as the US ambassador relayed that information back to the president of the United States, for example. Guys, it may not actually happen that way, but just for simplicity's sake, and so, but anyways, and it's going to tell your ad account, today we got 3 leads and yesterday we got 8 leads, or whatever the case is, or we got X amount of phone calls within the last 7 days, because it has placement on your website or landing page to see that activity. Now, it doesn't 100% feed all the data back, but it feeds a good amount of it. And this is a very important piece to your advertising, because as Facebook, your ad account gets that information back, it gains intel. And the kind of intel it gains is on what kind of people to continue targeting, who will be more likely to take the same actions as the people who have already become a lead or a phone call. And basically and this is internal, until someone volunteers their information by filling out a lead form or calling you and telling you who they are, you don't know who they are, and the ad account doesn't tell you who they are. You have to see that on the back end of your CRM or what have you, if you're using like House Call Pro or Service Titan or whatnot. But the ad account is going to know these are the 7 people who called yesterday, and because it has that, it's able to have that data, and then it's going to go find people in Facebook's ecosystem in that market who have commonalities based on the data Facebook has on everyone, and it's going to serve them the ads. And the more people who call or become a lead, the smarter Facebook's going to get at showing your ads to better and better people for your business. And so that's the importance of tracking and how that process works. And I'll pause there, Rob, in case there's anything else, or I think there may have been a second part to your question.
Yeah, no. So that was great. And obviously tracking super important for continuing to push the ad to the right people and make sure that you're maximizing your ad's performance. But the other piece would be, well, what happens if a lot of people are clicking on, your lead, but once they get to your landing page, your website, or your form, they're just not filling out their information. How are you going to use that information to make a change?
Great question. And this is assuming you have tracking. If you don't have tracking set up, Facebook has no way of learning who to better target. So it's probably just sending anybody to showing your ad to anybody, even people who may not even be a homeowner, for example, right? And so assuming you have tracking set up. Now, if this is like the first 5 to 7 days of a new campaign launching, I wouldn't be too freaked out about it, because Facebook's system, just like with any ad platform, needs time to learn. They have what's called a 7-day window. It's a more technical term than that, but it basically is a 7-day window to capture data and report it for that 7-day period. And every day is like the start of another 7-day period, so to speak. So it's a moving target in a sense. And so because of that, it usually takes Facebook 5 to 7 days of just showing your ads to people until it starts figuring it out. And that's a general rule of thumb. If you're only spending $10 a day, it's probably going to take you a lot longer than 7 days. You're spending, which you may not need to, but if you're spending $1,000 a day, well, that might be compressed down to like a day or two, right? It just, because your ad is being shown to more people, the more you spend, or less people, the less you spend. But general rule of thumb, 7 days. So if you're in your first 7 days of a campaign, I wouldn't be too freaked out, especially if you have a decent, what's called click-through rate, which generally speaking, over 2%, just in a very broad sense, is decent. 2.5%, 3% is generally speaking really good, right? And so, but click-through rates are not the main thing that matter, but I'm just saying, if you have a healthy click-through rate and you're in the first 7 days, you might be all right. Now, let's say you're kind of past that 7-day period and you're seeing, okay, my ad is showing to people, I'm reaching people, I'm getting impressions. This is all data that you see inside of your ad account. I'm getting clicks and so forth, but no one's converting to a lead, no one's calling me. Then what you want to start considering is, okay, did I set up all of my targeting correctly when I created my ad? And I know we didn't talk about that. That's another layer we'll get to in a later video. But did I set up all my targeting? Did I, and all those kind of things? If so, then the next thing is, okay, is my offer compelling enough? Or am I or compelling at all? Or is my offer a fit for this platform? Again, if you're running an AC repair, emergency repair, well, you can show your ads all day, but somebody who actually has the emergency might not see your ad on Facebook. They just might not even be on Facebook at the time your ad would have populated in their feed. They're running to Google. So you got to consider that. But let's assume maybe you're running ads for AC maintenance plans, right? Some special offer for that, something that's more appropriate for Facebook. And so then you got to look, is my offer compelling? Is there something missing? Do I have bad reviews? Do I have no reviews? And is that impacting people's willingness to trust me enough to call me? Is there something unattractive, not necessarily from an aesthetic perspective, which though that does matter, but in my messaging, something unattractive in my messaging? Is my diagnostic fee too high? Things like that, right? And so, well, that's if you're doing like AC repair, but things like that. So things you've got to consider. And at that point, what I'd be focused on doing as a result is, okay, I'm getting clicks, my ads are being seen. It's been about 7 days or maybe longer. I'm going to start changing one major variable at a time on my landing page. So maybe I change the big bold text at the top, which is called a headline. And maybe instead of saying AC maintenance plans for Tampa, Florida, maybe instead of saying something like that, that's very generic and vague and not compelling, maybe I switch it to saying top rated AC maintenance plans for Tampa homeowners, something that's a little bit more specific, right? And you could get better than that, but just as an example, it's a lot more crystallized. Instead of saying AC maintenance plans, Tampa, Florida, okay, cool, but top rated that builds a little bit of trust, you know, and well, I'm just throwing out an example. You don't have to say top rated, but top rated AC maintenance for Tampa homeowners. So now if I'm a Tampa homeowner, I want a reliable company, and I know that I haven't got my AC looked at in 5 years, and I'm afraid of it conking out and me having to spend more money on a repair, or maybe seeing this gets me to think that, then I'm going to be a lot more likely to fill out my information. And there are a lot of different levers like that you can pull, so to speak, on a landing page, but you want to do one at a time so that you can measure the impact. If you change 10 things, you don't know, and you start getting leads, you don't know why you started, you don't know. So one thing at a time, and you kind of let it run for maybe 2 to 3 days and see if you start picking up results. And if you don't, maybe it's that image on your page, or maybe it's the positioning of the lead form. Maybe it's too far down and people have to scroll far to even see it. Or maybe you don't have enough call now options or the phone number frequent enough throughout the page. You just have it at the top and people scroll down, they don't see anything actionable, and then they just leave and go to another website or a landing page or whatever the case is. So maybe your ads are pointing people to the homepage of your website, and now people have to browse through your website to find what they're looking for, instead of it pointing people directly to the page that's relevant to the ad that they saw and the message they saw in the ad. So there's a lot of scenarios that go into it, but that's the kind of at least systematic thinking that I would recommend somebody have in such a case of, you know, my ads are running, they're being seen, people are clicking, but then nothing's happening. And it's been 5 to 7 days already.
Definitely. Well, a lot of great advice, Zachariah. A lot for our viewers to process.
Yeah.
I would say that, you know, we gave you some of the skeleton to how to put together your ads. Obviously, we'll do a video in the future showing you exactly how we do that. But for people who have the money and don't want to deal with any of this, obviously just hire a marketing team like us, and avoid a lot of the headaches that come with this. Make sure you get it right on the first time instead of wasting marketing dollars, because the last thing you want is to go through a whole month, not get any leads, and then that money that you could have spent hiring the right team to make sure they get it done for you just went to ad spend and you got no return from that. So yeah. Zachariah, that was great. We'll do a lot more like this. So by the time you watch quite a few of these videos, you might be able to put together an ad yourself and be confident in it. But that's all I have for you today, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Solid, man. Yeah, it's a good conversation. All right. Talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week, Zachariah.